I was married to Youzhou for a lifetime, yet he always harbored an unspeakable love for another. On his deathbed, he confessed that he married me only to spare me, whom he regarded as a sister, from suffering in that bitterly cold land. If there were a next life, he wished to be selfish, to follow only his own heart. His dying wish was granted. Reborn with my memories intact, I refused his invitation to view the lanterns together. At the Lantern Festival, he fell for Chen at first sight. Had he not been escorting me, with my sprained ankle, to the clinic, he would never have missed that chance to meet her. One step too late, and every step after is too late. This time, I won't stand between him and Chen Yuyao. I hope he gets his wish. Are you really not coming? The streets are bustling. The boy who persistently invited me had eyes as bright as stars in the sky. Under his hopeful gaze, I still shook my head. I want to practice my Qin at home. You go by yourself. When Youzhou's face dimmed slightly, but he didn't press further. All right then. I'll bring you something delicious when I return. He turned to leave, his very silhouette radiating youthful vigor. Watching him vanish at the doorway, I recalled his final words. That fleeting glimpse at the Lantern Festival was the most cherished part of Youzhou's lengthy farewell. Mentioning it, tenderness and nostalgia overflowed from his eyes. Yet when he spoke of my sprained ankle, a shadow seemed to fall over his face. His inability to leave me behind meant he never got to know Chen Yuyao sooner, a regret that would haunt him forever. That night, I lay awake all night, reliving my time with Youzhou as if enduring slow torture. Every time he showed affection, every gift he prepared for me with such care. Every time he drifted into silence, every time he unconsciously avoided my touch. His final words were, "Chu, I don't regret saving you. But I wish I hadn't married you." Dawn's light streamed through the window. I carved out the last rotten piece of flesh from my heart. Youzhou didn't bring back the treats he promised. Nor did I seek him out. We acted as if we'd never met. I spent more time organizing father's books and tending mother's flowers. Mother wondered why I no longer followed Youzhou everywhere, asking if we'd quarreled. I threw myself into her arms, the long mist scent making my eyes sting. I just want to spend more time with you and father. Why are you pushing me away? Mother stroked my head, smiling. True. You've come of age, Chu. Once you marry, you won't be able to keep me company anymore. I pressed my lips together, tears spilling onto her sleeve. Then I won't marry. Don't talk nonsense. Unaware of my distress, she brought up Youzhou again. Do you like Edu, Chu? His mother asked me just the other day if I was interested in a match. You two have always been close since childhood. It's only because I couldn't bear to see you married that I didn't agree. Could it be you two quarreled over this? I replied sullenly, no. Youzhou and I never discussed marriage. I don't want to marry him either. Her hand paused on my back. She cupped my face, her puzzled gaze freezing when it met my tear-filled eyes. Worry clouded her expression as she wiped my tears with her handkerchief. Did that good-for-nothing bully you? I'll go to his house and give him a piece of my mind. I clasped Mother's hand and shook my head. It's not about Youzhou. I just had a nightmare during my nap and woke up missing you terribly. I just want to stay with you and father. Mother smiled helplessly. Silly child, what girl stays with her parents forever? My daughter is so lovely, how could she not find a husband? Even if not Youzhou, plenty of fine young men will come courting. We'll take our time choosing, dear. The door opened as father returned in his official robes. He echoed Mother's words, exactly. If not Youzhou, I know many fine young men in the court. I'll introduce them to you when the time comes. I looked at father. His brow was slightly furrowed, as if he were angry. When our eyes met, he forced a smile. Mother rose to fetch father's civilian clothes for him to change into. I stepped out and closed the door behind me, lingering in the doorway rather than leaving immediately. Father had never mentioned marriage before. He always wanted me to stay home longer, yet today he'd brought it up himself. Inside, I heard their quiet voices. I was just teasing Chu. Why are you upset? Didn't you think highly of that one boy earlier? He's intelligent and treats Chu well. After Mother asked, father's slightly angry voice rang out, "You're still thinking about that boy? Don't you know what he's been up to these past few days? That boy set his sights on a girl during the Lantern Festival. It's only been a few days, and he's already begged old man Wen to propose marriage for him. Does he even remember our daughter?" Mother fell silent. I lowered my eyes and left their bedroom. I thought to myself, so without my interference, when Youzhou moves this swiftly when he likes someone. So after 16 years of growing up together, he truly never liked me. That evening, Mother came to find me, her eyes slightly reddened. She forced a smile as she listened to me play the zither. After I played one piece after another, she cautiously asked, "Do you truly dislike when Youzhou, choo-choo?" My expression remained calm as I nodded. "I truly do not. My feelings for Wen Youzhou are nothing more than those of a playmate." Mother exhaled in relief, yet her eyes reddened once more. She turned her head, dabbing her eyes with a handkerchief, then spoke in a voice strained with suppressed sobs. "Then would you allow your mother to arrange a marriage for you? We've known the Wen family for generations, there's no need to rush. But if we're to find you a good husband now, we must take our time." I wanted to refuse. I wanted to tell Mother I'd never marry. But seeing her reddened eyes, I silently agreed. Mother smiled, ruffled my hair, then left my bedroom. By noon the next day, she brought me a stack of portraits. Before Father, Mother was always gentle and composed, seemingly without a trace of temper. Yet before these portraits, she sighed repeatedly. I didn't want to hear her sorrow. My future with Wen Youzhou was gone, and she grieved more deeply than I did. I pointed to one portrait. "Mother, I wish to meet this man." Her spirits lifted slightly as she studied the portrait. "He holds a fifth-rank official position. His appearance is fine, but his mother is ill, his family isn't wealthy, and his temperament is cold and distant. He easily makes enemies. If you marry him, you'll likely suffer." I gazed at the face in the portrait. "Just meet him. What if fate brings us together?" Mother frowned, studying me intently for a long moment before finally nodding. She instructed the servants to make arrangements. When Chen Shuyan's day off arrived, we went to the tea house for our meeting. He was even more refined and handsome than his portrait suggested, though weariness clouded his features. He stared at me in surprise for a moment. I cleared my throat softly, and he snapped back to attention, bowing to me. We sat on opposite sides of the tea table. The maid poured tea, but he kept his eyes lowered the entire time, never once looking my way. I remained silent too, and we sat in awkward silence. He couldn't hold back any longer and spoke first. "The daughter of the imperial censor possesses divine beauty and grace. She deserves a worthy husband. I am unworthy." He probably couldn't refuse my father and was forced to come. I smiled and raised my hand to offer him tea. "It seems I am not fortunate enough to meet Lord Chen's approval. However, if we cannot form a good marriage, we can still form a good friendship." Chen Shuyan looked at me with confusion. I pulled a jade token from my embroidered pouch and slid it across the table toward him. "I've long heard of Lord Chen's filial devotion, studying for the imperial examinations while caring for your mother. Coincidentally, Elder Lin of Shinchuan Pavilion is a close friend of my father. This token was given to me by Elder Lin. Take it to him, and he will treat your mother." Master Lin was once an imperial physician. After retiring, he opened Shinchuan Pavilion in the capital to teach and treat patients. However, he has long since ceased practicing and rarely sees anyone now. Chen Shuyan's expression shifted slightly, then his gaze turned wary as he looked at me. "Thank you for your kindness, Miss Luo, but I cannot accept favors without merit." I sighed softly. "My reaching out to you, Minister Chen, does have a reason." He didn't seem surprised, but rather relaxed a little. "Father, as a censor overseeing all officials, has offended countless people. He's also upright and inflexible. Though things are fine now, who knows what challenges lie ahead. I just thought that if one day, it would be good to have someone speak up for him." I lied. My overtures weren't meant to secure his support for my father. My father had served in the court for years, accumulating both enemies and allies. Even if Chen Shuyan wanted to, he couldn't speak for my father. After all, before my father's exile, Chen had already been demoted in disguise to serve as prefect of Youzhou for offending others. Chen Shuyan pondered, staring at the teacup, hesitating to speak. I didn't urge him. I knew he was a deeply filial man. Sure enough, he accepted the jade token and returned the teacup to me. This kindness I shall never forget. The matter settled, I donned my veil and walked out of the tea house with him. He saw me to my carriage. Before stepping inside, I lifted a corner of the curtain and said, "The sun is setting. May you return home safely, Lord Chen. Should you face any difficulties, you may always send a note to the Luo residence." He gave me a nod. Just before lowering the curtain, I saw a pair of lovebirds emerge from the tea house next door. The tall, slender man among them caught my gaze from afar. Then, when Youzhou turned his eyes toward Chen Shuyan beside the carriage. Without pausing, I stepped into the carriage. Having not seen Youzhou for half a month, I now felt a strange unfamiliarity upon seeing him. Just as well. Better not to meet at all. After returning home, I told father and mother that I felt no connection with Chen Shuyan and that today's matter was settled. They immediately began searching for the next candidate for me. I never expected Youzhou to come calling. In the past, he entered our home without needing to announce himself. Now, the gatekeeper came to ask if I would see him. I said no. Not long after the gatekeeper left, he returned. "Master Wen insists he has something important for you and must see you." "Nothing is important. I still won't see him." This time, the gatekeeper did not return. Soon after, the patrol servants brought a man before me and my mother. When Youzhou looked disheveled, his robe covered in grass clippings and mud. He bowed respectfully to my mother. "Auntie, I have something I wish to discuss with Chu. I humbly request your permission." My mother gave him a cold stare. "You couldn't wait to be invited in, so you climbed over the wall. If I refuse you now, will you knock me unconscious?" A flicker of embarrassment crossed Youzhou's face, but he maintained his composure. "There are compelling reasons. I have urgent matters to discuss with Miss Luo." I stared at him, my gaze probing. The word steadfast didn't feel out of place when applied to Youzhou. Yet the young Youzhou was full of youthful vigor, his emotions running freely, his face unable to hide anything. Mother gave a cold snort. I patted her hand. "Mother, I'll speak with him for a moment." A glimmer of hope flashed in Youzhou's eyes. I turned my head, motioning for him to follow. We stopped at the octagonal pavilion in the garden. "What did you need to tell me?" He pressed his fist to his lips and cleared his throat, beating around the bush. "How come the dog hole's blocked?" He used to come and go freely in my house. He'd found a dog hole, and despite being a young master, he didn't mind the dirt. When he couldn't be bothered to use the front door, he'd crawl through the dog hole to find me. We had it patched up to keep out thieves. "You came here just to talk about the dog hole?" Perhaps my tone was too cold. When Youzhou's attempts to warm up the conversation cooled as well. He pulled several sheets of paper from his robe and placed them on the stone table. "These are profiles of promising young men I've compiled. You've started meeting potential suitors recently. Don't rush it, marriage is a lifelong commitment. You mustn't marry the wrong person in haste." I was utterly baffled. Ignoring my reaction, he continued unabated, "I know you favor good looks. The men I've selected are all exceptionally handsome. Take this one, though a son of a concubine, his character is resilient. He has greater promise than his legitimate elder brother. And this one, his family background isn't prominent now, but he's meticulous and calculating. It's only a matter of time before he rises. And then there's..." I recognized these names, all men who, in my past life, had enjoyed smooth careers and peaceful households. "On what grounds do you interfere with my marriage?" I couldn't help but laugh. "Youzhou, you're just a year older than me. Do you really see yourself as my elder brother?" Youzhou fell silent for a moment, a hint of guilt flickering in his eyes. He said, "Regardless of how you feel, I always see you as my sister. Naturally, I worry for you. That Chen Shuyan you met last time, though he's upright and handsome, is too rigid. Marrying him would bring you suffering. Better to live a stable life in the capital, where I can watch over you." I confirmed when Youzhou had also been reborn. He spoke those heart-piercing words before his death, and now he meddles in my affairs again. He deceived me my entire life, only revealing at the end that he never let go of the one he fell for at first sight. I nearly recalled the sharp ache in my heart from that moment. The pent-up fury in my chest. My throat felt clogged with the taste of rust. Yet I couldn't voice it. Because he married me to save me, a choice that made his love impossible. Go grow old with your beloved, I said coldly. Mind your own business. When Youzhou pressed his temples in frustration. Even if I had a lover and married her, I couldn't abandon you. I shot back, that's sickening. What connection do I have to you that you feel compelled to meddle? When Youzhou, flustered and afraid I'd dig in my heels, blurted out, this concerns your future. This isn't about jealousy. We grew up together, how could I stand by and watch you suffer? My fingertips dug into my palm. What jealousy? Only lovers feel jealousy. What exactly am I jealous of? He fell silent, his expression freezing in a moment of stunned realization. I took a deep breath, my face expressionless. Since you've chosen someone, stop entangling yourself with other girls. It only ruins both of them. When Youzhou stared at me, lost in thought again. I knew this look all too well. After marriage, he often stared blankly into space, claiming he was pondering work matters. Now, I had no idea what kind of work he was contemplating. I have my own life. Whatever fate holds, I'll accept it. I don't need your interference. When Youzhou snapped back to reality, looking instantly worn out. The spark in his eyes faded, his gaze drooping with confusion and dejection. He murmured softly, as if questioning, you don't need me? I had the servants escort him out immediately, along with his few scraps of paper. When Youzhou left, looking utterly lost. I continued my matchmaking, and among the candidates were several mentioned by Youzhou. 2 months passed peacefully. Chen was dispatched to Youzhou. Fortunately, his mother hadn't passed away this time. Before his departure, he sent a note requesting an audience with me. He returned the jade token, but I didn't accept it. Once given, it's yours. Chen shook his head slightly. I promised to speak for Inspector Luo, yet this time it was Inspector Luo who stood up for me, dragging him into trouble. I feel guilty toward you. I only knew father had been docked 2 months' salary, never imagining it was for advocating on Chen Shuyan's behalf. Don't dwell on it. My father wasn't helping you, he simply has a natural sense of justice. He was born to be a censor. Chen Shuyan smiled too, but his expression quickly turned grave. Lord Luo's temperament is both his strength and his weakness. Miss Luo, if you can, please advise Lord Luo to speak less. He lowered his voice. The capital is about to change. He said little more, but I understood. At the end of July, the traitorous General Qing Buiyuan was escorted back to the capital. He was thrown into prison, to be executed after the autumn harvest. In my previous life, father suspected foul play and repeatedly petitioned for a thorough investigation into Qing Buiyuan's treason, only to be repeatedly dismissed. Not just father knew something was amiss, others knew it too. Even General Qing himself understood. Though advanced in years, his reputation was formidable, his achievements overshadowing the sovereign. Even if he voluntarily surrendered his military insignia to the emperor could not rest easy. The moment the frame-up unfolded, Qing Buiyuan knew his fate. He ordered his men to defend their homes and country, not to stir trouble for him, not to plunge the people into the calamity of war. He traded his own death for a moment of peace. My father was single-minded. He felt the case was suspicious and couldn't let the soldiers and officers lose heart, so he petitioned again and again. He married me off, gave my mother a divorce decree, then went to court to plead his case to the death. His death failed to sway the emperor, instead incurring imperial wrath and exile to Youzhou. Mother sold our family possessions, gave me half, bid me farewell, and set off to join father. They remained in Youzhou, leaving me alone in the capital. It was father who pleaded with Youzhou, an elder beseeching a younger man to marry his daughter. In that desperate hour, he could only entrust me to Youzhou. My father acted out of love for me, Youzhou's kindness was born of necessity. My father secured my future, when Youzhou cared for me for the rest of my life. Thus, all the anger and resentment born of my circumstances were bound in chains. I could blame no one. My heart was filled with unspeakable bitterness. This time, I made two preparations. First, I cultivated a relationship with Chen, ensuring I would have someone to look after me even if exiled to Youzhou. Second, I warned Qingbuyuan. The frontier was distant, so I privately commissioned a scholar to write a story about a general whose achievements threatened his sovereign. I had a merchant caravan carry it to the frontier and deliver it to a storyteller. The book, circulating from the capital to the frontier, served as both a reminder and a warning. General Chen has long served as a commander. He must have sensed the emperor's intentions toward him. I know nothing of the specifics of what transpired or how he was framed, and thus cannot offer further details. When the rumors of his alleged collusion with the enemy first surfaced during a period of relative calm, I truly believed he might escape this calamity. Yet barely half a month later, he was secretly escorted back to the capital. I realized I could not intervene in General Cheng's inescapable fate. I overheard Father and Wendu hinting at something, that the emperor sought to eliminate potential threats, pave the way for the crown prince, and secure the throne. Whether it's the current verdict or a future exoneration after the crown prince ascends, the purpose remains the same. When the sovereign commands death, the subject must obey. 2 months hence marks General Cheng's execution date. Father's exile draws near. Father grew more silent with each day he spent at home, his gaze upon Mother and me deepening with each passing moment. I knew what he was thinking. And I knew I couldn't stop him. Father was a pure-hearted minister, loyal to the state, stubborn to the point of exasperation. And what Mother loved most about him was precisely that integrity. One willing to strike, the other willing to endure, a perfect match. Persuading them was futile. Better to urge them to stay fit and prepare our residence in Youzhou sooner. With Chen support, life there won't be too hard to bear. Once the crown prince ascends the throne, General Cheng's case will be retried. His reputation will be restored, and Father will be summoned back to the capital. Both my parents passed away in the capital. After 8 years in Youzhou, their bodies grew weak and cold. Returning to the capital, they lived out their natural lives within 3 years. Had their days in Youzhou been more comfortable, perhaps better health would have granted them longer lives. My frequent correspondence with Chen became, in my parents' eyes, proof of affection between us. I could offer no defense. After discussing it, they deemed Chen a fine man, but Youzhou was too distant. They didn't want me marrying far away and insisted I sever ties with him. Father grew increasingly anxious to arrange matches for me. Though he'd once most disliked the idea of my early marriage, now he desperately wished for me to find a good home tomorrow. I complied with his arrangements, yet whenever I returned home, I could always find a flaw to reject a suitor. My father's hair fell out in clumps from the stress, and 2 blisters formed on his tongue. If I didn't marry, Mother couldn't rest easy watching me wed. Then he wouldn't be able to properly arrange matters for both of us. Mother couldn't understand why he was so flustered and irritable, so she brewed him calming, heat-reducing herbs daily. I secretly corresponded with Chen, discreetly sending elixirs and medicinal herbs from the capital to Youzhou. When Father caught me red-handed with the letters, he was so furious he leaned against the wall. That stubborn little fool, what on earth do you see in him? I cleared my throat softly. It's not that I'm fond of him. I just see in him the same dignity you possess. Father hesitated, hands clasped behind his back. He straightened his posture, poised to lecture me, yet his words caught in his throat. The atmosphere grew tense. I waited for Father's reprimand, but he seemed at a loss for words. Mother chuckled softly. Our choo-choo has as good taste as I do. Father snorted and turned toward his study. Mother and I giggled behind his back. Just then, the gatekeeper came to announce, Madam, Miss. The gatekeeper's expression was oddly unsettling, the Wen family has come to propose marriage. I doubted my own ears and instinctively looked at Mother. She too wore a puzzled look. A crowd had already gathered outside the main gate. Master Wen arrived with a matchmaker, his servants carrying betrothal gifts. When Youzhou stood beside Master Wen, eyes downcast and voice subdued. Mother forced a smile, not inviting them in. What does Master Wen mean by this? Master Wen's smile seemed strained, likely recalling the past incident. Chu has grown up. I've come to propose marriage on behalf of my good-for-nothing son. Mother glanced at Youzhou's expression. So you're here for a marriage proposal. Judging by young Master Wen's face, I thought you'd come seeking medical advice. Youzhou fixed his gaze on me, his voice utterly unruffled. I voluntarily request to marry Miss Luo Minchu of the Luo family. I humbly ask the Luo family's master and mistress to grant this wish. Father emerged from the study, standing beside Mother. He addressed Master Wen, "You're late." Father smiled broadly. "My daughter's marriage has already been promised to another." The color drained from Youzhou's face in an instant. His voice cracked with urgency. "To whom is she to marry?" Father glanced at him dismissively. "He is a fine young man. You needn't trouble yourself over Chu's marriage." Youzhou stared at me in utter disbelief. "Mr. Wen," his face flushed with embarrassment, tugged hard at his son's sleeve, but couldn't pull him away. Father dismissed the matchmaker, leaving the betrothal gifts outside the door. He invited Mr. Wen inside for tea and a chat, saying as he did so, "I've long heard that you've taken a fancy to a young lady, Youzhou. Why no happy news yet? Adu isn't young anymore. Don't stand in his way. Just give up on having Chu as your daughter-in-law. She's made up her mind, and I can't control her." Master Wen looked bitterly frustrated, swallowing his grievances. Mother played along with Father, casually inviting Youzhou inside. "You and Chu have been childhood friends. Once she marries, you'll hardly see each other anymore." Following behind Mother, I sensed Youzhou's gaze fixed on me. Just before I stepped into the main hall, someone grabbed my wrist. Youzhou pulled me away to a secluded spot. I yanked my hand free, waiting for him to speak. His silence wore thin, and I asked, "Aren't you smitten with Miss Chen?" After parting ways at the Lantern Festival, my focus had been entirely on my family. I hadn't inquired about their affairs and likely knew less than my parents did. Given how Youzhou had cherished Chen Yuyao in his heart his entire life, how could he still come to propose to me? When Youzhou spoke in a hoarse voice, I too believed I would be with her. I sat down on the stone railing, my tone calm. "Yes, I heard all about it. You fell for her at first sight during the Lantern Festival, then had my uncle propose marriage, and invited her out repeatedly. I thought you'd marry before I did." When Youzhou lifted his eyes to meet mine, "Chu, doesn't it matter to you at all?" My voice was light, his tone heavy. I smiled. "Care about what? You treat me like a sister, and I treat you like a brother. When a brother marries, of course I offer my blessings." When Youzhou closed his eyes, pain etched across his face. "No. No what?" He drew a deep breath. "I don't treat you like a sister." His words were as resolute as when he first declared I was his sister. Suddenly, he bent down, gripped my arms, and looked me straight in the eyes. Chu, you should marry me." My smile faded. "What about Miss Chen?" When Youzhou answered without hesitation, "She has her own destiny, but that destiny doesn't include me." I froze. I knew that during the Lantern Festival, it wasn't only Youzhou who had fallen for Chen Yuyao. There was another man. That man wasn't bad either. When Youzhou took me to the clinic after I injured my foot, that man had already actively befriended Chen Yuyao. By the time Youzhou sought her out again, her heart already held another's image. So in the previous life, Youzhou was a step too late. This time, without me in the picture, had he been too late again? "You hit a wall with Miss Chen, so now you've remembered me?" "No. I have a reason I must marry you." Youzhou immediately denied it, his expression turning serious. Chu, trust me. I know your parents will be exiled to Youzhou soon. Only by marrying me can you stay in the capital. We'll still grow old together." I let out a hollow ah and asked flatly, "Sacrificing your own marriage for me? No wonder you looked so grim earlier." Youzhou stiffened, conflicted in his eyes. Yet he didn't argue, only said, "For you, it's nothing. Just now, Lord Luo mentioned you're already betrothed." "Who is it? In the capital? Is he reliable?" I didn't answer his question. Instead, I asked, "How did you know my parents would be exiled to Youzhou?" By marrying me, wouldn't you and Miss Chen have no chance at all? When Youzhou lowered his eyes slightly. You might not believe this, Chu, but I've been reborn. Uncle will anger the emperor by petitioning on Qingbuyuan's behalf. Aunt will accompany him to Youzhou. By marrying me beforehand, you'll avoid that calamity. As for Miss Chen, it was simply that our paths were meant to cross, yet our destinies were not meant to align. I couldn't help but laugh. Don't feel guilty about your marriage. I'm willing to go to Youzhou. He frowned. Don't be foolish. That bitterly cold land is no place for games. I confessed to him, do you think our current estrangement stems solely from your choice to avoid me? He paused, stunned. I chuckled softly, I've been avoiding you too, Youzhou. I hope you can fulfill your final wish. When Youzhou's expression darkened even more than at the mansion gate. He stared at me blankly. Final wish? Yes. This time, you won't have to sacrifice anything for me. I won't be a burden to you. When Youzhou seemed to lose his soul entirely, staring at me blankly. He unconsciously took 2 steps forward, protesting, no, that's not it. He grabbed my wrist, I don't want you to fulfill any wish for me. Chu, if we could just be like we were in our past life, I'd be happy with that. If you were truly willing, you wouldn't have looked like that when you proposed. I looked like that because. He tried to explain, yet seemed unable to find the words. I pulled my hand away. Enough. This is as far as we go. I turned and walked toward the main hall. Behind me, he murmured, don't you love me anymore? I heard him, but didn't answer. In his past life, marrying me was his kindness. In this life, not marrying him is my kindness. As for the question he asked, I decided to tell him only when I was dying. But I would likely live a long time. He passed away at 40. After his last breath, I took poison too. I couldn't tell if it was heartache or stomach pain then, only remembering my mouth filled with blood. And my mind filled with the thought, he had always loved someone else his entire life. This lifetime, I want a peaceful end. Father no longer forced me to meet suitors. He waited for someone's letter, asking the servants daily if any had arrived. During this time, I went to Xinchuan Pavilion to assist Master Lin's disciples. I borrowed many of their medical treatises. Master Lin's disciples were all skilled physicians. Out of respect for my father, they were willing to teach me a little. My greatest worry about traveling to Youzhou was my parents' health. The long journey and harsh conditions troubled me, even though I knew they'd be fine if I followed the path of my past life. I was too busy to be at home, and father was still running around for General Cheng. Only mother remained at home. She sensed something was off. I remained the same, but father had grown noticeably colder toward her. For several days straight, he slept in his study. Privately, she asked me if I knew what father was so busy with. I pulled her straight to him. He was writing something. Seeing us enter, he froze, instinctively covering what he was writing. Quick as a flash, I snatched the paper from him. It was a lengthy document, the characters growing smaller toward the end. But no matter how much he wrote, it was a divorce petition. Mother's eyes instantly reddened. She tore up the paper and slapped father across the face. Luo Jiawan, what do you think you're doing? Father clutched his face, stammering, divorce. He received another slap from mother. I silently backed away, hearing mother roar, say it again. Father fell silent. I asked him, a divorce requires a reason, father. Why? Father cradled his bruised cheeks and sighed deeply. Of course I have my reasons. Speak! Mother glared at him. Father pressed his lips together, seeming conflicted. He looked at mother's face and shook his head slightly. You only need to know this, the divorce is for the good of you and your mother. My own palms itched to strike. But this was my father, I couldn't raise a hand against him. Fortunately, mother didn't hold back. Another slap landed, just because you say it's for the best. Do you think it is? Blow after blow struck father's shoulders and back. He hunched his neck but didn't flinch. Fine. I'll speak. Only then did mother stop. Father sighed deeply. General Qing is wronged. I wish to plead his case, but His Majesty's decision is final. If I insist on defying the imperial will. Mother paused. She stared at father for a long moment, then finally looked at me. It seemed she'd made a decision. She pulled out a sheet of paper, placed it on the table, and handed father a brush. Write another divorce petition. My heart jolted. I looked at her in astonishment. She said to father, I'll take good care of Choo-Choo. You can go do what you need to do. The plaque over the Luo residence was replaced with Bai Manor. Bai was mother's maiden name. Mother established a female-headed household and took me with her. With father handling the paperwork at the registry office, the documents came through quickly. Father left the manor to mother and me, renting a room elsewhere for himself. It was his choice, his path to walk. As Qing Buiyuan's sentence drew nearer, mother grew increasingly thin and silent. I tried to reassure her, telling her not to worry, that father would be fine. She took it as mere comfort. Finally, father was imprisoned. Mother cried all night. At this juncture, few dared to associate with our family. After several days, someone sent me a private letter. Having courted so many suitors before, I'd cultivated many connections. I couldn't do much, but I could leak some information. They said father would suffer some hardship, but it wouldn't take his life. Several letters arrived, all saying much the same. I breathed a slight sigh of relief. I bribed the guards to send father quilts and food, but I didn't dare let mother come along. Father looked disheveled and filthy. Mother would have been heartbroken to see him like that. Father wouldn't let me linger long in the dungeon. He recounted mother's habits in detail, urging me to care for her. Each instruction felt like a final testament. When death approaches, the people we cherish most become crystal clear. After leaving the prison, I stood by the roadside, lost in thought for a while. The misty rain blurred my senses, blurring reality and dreams. Until a carriage pulled up beside me. When Youzhou stepped out, holding an umbrella over my head. I stared at his face. Rain slid down his cheek like a tear. It's raining. Why are you still standing here? Concern flashed in his eyes. I snapped out of my daze, pulled my gaze away, stepped out from under his umbrella, and opened my own. When Youzhou walked beside me. Do you truly wish to go to Youzhou? That impoverished place, how could your body endure it? I replied absent-mindedly, if father and mother can go, why can't I? My wrist was seized, forcing me to stop. When Youzhou sighed helplessly. Choo-choo, this isn't the time for stubbornness. Marry me, and you can avoid this ordeal. Don't be ungrateful, I'm doing this for your own good. I glanced behind him. Miss Chen, what brings you here? The moment he turned his distracted gaze back, I yanked my wrist free and hurried toward our family carriage. I had no desire to hear about what was best for me right now. Father was still sentenced to exile in Youzhou. Mother and I sold off our possessions, preparing to set out with the exiles. To lessen father's suffering, we had no choice but to bribe the escorting officials. While selling hairpins and ornaments at the jewelry shop, I encountered Chen Yuyao. She paused when she saw me, as if she recognized me. It wasn't strange that I knew her, but it was strange that she knew me. She had returned to the capital with her father after his transfer. I hadn't attended the banquets she participated in, so she shouldn't have had the chance to know me. She walked towards me, pointing at the hairpins and rings spread out on the counter. These designs are quite exquisite. Just then, a young man dressed in brocade robes approached her, holding a lustrous jade bracelet. Yaoer, what do you think of this color? Chen Yuyao smiled at him, her eyes brimming with affection. Your taste is, of course, impeccable. She asked the young man to select more pieces for her, then approached me alone, examining my hairpins and rings. I like them all. Would Miss Luo be willing to sell them to me? I looked at her beautiful face. You know me? Chen Yuyao smiled, a hint of mischief in her eyes. Indeed, I've heard much about you. I looked at him in confusion. She whispered, I've often heard young Master Wen speak of a sister he worries about constantly, fearing this, fearing that, afraid she'll marry the wrong man. It seems young Master Wen has feelings for me, yet he keeps mentioning another girl. I smiled. He does have feelings for you. Chen Yuyao raised an eyebrow and gestured toward the young man selecting items for her. Just don't let him hear that, he gets fiercely jealous. She shook her head. Master Wen was decent enough at first. But after trying to get along with him a few times, I sensed something off. He treated me with perfect care and caution. It was nice, but not like someone devoted to their beloved. More like worshipping a deity. Only when he spoke of you did he seem like a living person. When I suggested the person in his heart might actually be that sister he keeps mentioning, he denied it as if stung. I can't figure out what he's so sensitive about. She pondered for a moment before concluding, he's a very peculiar person. As she spoke, she neatly packed away all my hairpins and ornaments, then handed me 2 silver notes. Is this enough? I hesitated. It was far more than enough. She pressed them into my hand and whispered in my ear, my father says both General Cheng and Magistrate Luo are good officials. She stood straight, her smile fading slightly. Her eyes grew serious, though her words remained playful. Miss Luo, I read faces. The moment I saw you, I knew you were blessed with a long, prosperous life. She held up the newly purchased hairpins and jingled them. Consider these my way of borrowing some of your good fortune. I was both amused and exasperated. Suddenly, I thought, when Youzhou had a bad fate. Even if he were reborn, he could never marry such a wonderful girl. The exile journey was long. I hired a carriage and escort for Mother, bribing the escorting officials generously. As we left the city, an extra figure joined the exile procession. Mother tugged at my sleeve. Choo-choo, look. He rode behind our carriage on horseback. I couldn't fathom what Youzhou intended. He never sought me out, nor did I go to him. When Mother urged him to return to the capital, he claimed urgent business in Youzhou. Over 2 months of travel, we crossed paths many times. Each time, he'd silently watch me before averting his gaze first. It was impossible to know what he was thinking. At the gates of Youzhou, he rode up beside our carriage and knocked on the side. Through the carriage, I heard him say, I've been thinking the whole way. I feel I should explain things to you. I didn't lift the curtain. It was already bitterly cold outside. I kept wondering who you'd marry. Even when I deliberately avoided seeing you, I still worried if you'd suffer marrying someone else. I thought of you constantly, yet tried to convince myself I only saw you as a sister. After the Lantern Festival, I often met with Chen Yuyao. Yet whenever I was with her, your name kept flashing through my mind. Once, I even called her Choo-choo. Seeing her smile at other men, I felt no stirrings, not even the rage I felt when Chen Shuyan escorted you to the carriage. After the anger came panic. Why did I feel anger at her interacting with other men? The one I like should be Chen Yuyao. The one I love is her. That's why I selected so many young men for you, only then could I convince myself our bond was purely sibling affection. Yet the more I saw Chen Yuyao, the more uneasy I felt. When she told me her heart belonged to another, I actually breathed a sigh of relief. He spoke in one breath, as if these words had been buried deep within him for far too long. Mother clasped my hand, her gaze complex. The city gates opened. Attendants greeted us at the entrance. The escorting officers were ushered away to rest, while Father was handed over to another group. When Youzhou's voice trailed off. Outside the carriage, someone called out, Lady Luo. Miss Luo! I lifted the curtain. Chen Shuyan stood in the snow, clad in official robes, meeting my gaze. Long time no see, he said. I echoed his words. When Youzhou spurred his horse, cutting off his sentence. The carriage and the horse were only 3 paces apart, yet between Youzhou and me lay 2 lifetimes. I stepped down and walked with him to a quiet spot by the roadside. In the icy blizzard, opening your mouth meant swallowing wind. I couldn't fathom how Youzhou had managed to speak so much earlier. He was bundled thickly, yet his appearance had visibly roughened, the youthful vigor gone, replaced by a certain desolation. When Youzhou gazed at me with a heavy look, reminding me of his self from the previous life. Suddenly, that past life felt like a distant memory, already far removed from me. I couldn't recall the intense pain of it all. You moved on long ago, secured your own escape route. And I was so foolish, thinking only I could save you. He glanced at Chen Shuyan nearby, a self-mocking smile touching his lips. I refused to admit I wasted all those years when we could have truly loved each other. I needed a reason to be with you, not because I loved you, but something else. Even on the day I came to propose, even when I met you at the prison gates, I was still deceiving myself, avoiding the past, refusing to accept that this ending was my own doing. His voice dropped to a near whisper, "But it's you I love." Choo-choo. I was both slow to understand and hypocritical and despicable. So I lost you, didn't I? Chen Yuyao said he was awkward. This was why. I stared at the snow-covered ground. The snow was pristine and white, appearing pure and clean. Yet beneath that white blanket, who knew how much rotten grass and filth lay hidden? I blinked, pulled my hat tighter, and said to him, "When Youzhou, you call yourself hypocritical and despicable. I cannot respond to that accusation. Because no matter how you perceive yourself, the beneficiary of the events of our past life was me. I cannot blame you." He wanted too much, believing only the unattained was treasure. What he held wasn't bad, but it couldn't satisfy him. He gazed at me, sorrow flowing from his eyes. Let's just say we were destined to be apart. What's missed is missed. I stood up, creating distance between us. Thank you for escorting me this far. Stop here. This lifetime, we'll each go our separate ways. I recalled the question he'd once asked me. I'd intended to keep him waiting, delaying my answer for a long time. Now, I realized there was no need to hold on to that stubbornness. When Youzhou, I truly no longer love you. When Youzhou returned to the capital, Mother and I moved into the residence Chen Shuyan had arranged for us. It was fully furnished, warm and cozy. It wasn't far from where Father worked. Chen Shuyan visited periodically. But he mostly spoke with my mother. I always felt he was avoiding me. It seemed he was truly filial to his own mother, and to others' mothers as well. Mother, however, remembered how frequently we'd corresponded before. She created opportunities for me to be alone with Chen Shuyan. The stove burned warmly inside the house. Mother was cooking with the kitchen maid. She wouldn't let me help, insisting I entertain Chen Shuyan instead. I offered him dried fruit. He sat perfectly upright, as if a ruler were propped against his back. He still wouldn't look at me. I crunched on the dried fruit, just like when we first met. He didn't speak, and neither did I. This time, he spoke first. "Miss Luo. Is what your Uncle Luo wrote in his letter true?" I froze. My father had written him a letter? Chen Shuyan's face flushed, likely from the warmth of the charcoal fire. He said, "Letters can't convey everything clearly, so I wanted to ask you directly when I had the chance." He suddenly grew serious for no apparent reason, staring straight at me. "Miss Luo, do you truly fancy me? Do you wish to form a bond with me?" Caught off guard, I crushed a dried fruit in my hand. "What did my father say to you?" That old fart, meddling behind my back again. Chen Shuyan sensed my surprise and paused. "Your father wrote that if we were truly compatible, it wouldn't be impossible. But I must try my best to be transferred back to the capital." He frowned in confusion. For a man who'd served as an official for years, he seemed almost childish now. "But now that you've come to Youzhou, must I still return to the capital?" Only belatedly did I grasp his previous words, mutual affection. I knew my father misunderstood me, but Chen Shuyan speaking of mutual affection? Was the charcoal fire burning too fiercely? Chen Shuyan pressed his lips together. No words were needed, the flush on his face spoke volumes. I felt utterly at a loss. "I am the daughter of a disgraced minister." His voice was gentle, my heart is as clear as a mirror. I looked at him. His gaze was soft, the corners of his lips curved in a smile. "You are wonderful. I knew it the first moment I saw you. The longer I know you, the more I realize how wonderful you are." My throat felt dry, so I drank a cup of water. The room still felt warm, so I went to open the window. The cold wind outside hit my face. Chen Shuyan remained seated. I stared out the window, unable to speak. Mother came in carrying dishes. Chen Shuyan quickly rose to help. After the meal, neither of us said another word. When he left, Mother asked me to walk him to the alley entrance. After a quiet stretch of the walk, he said, I haven't agreed to Uncle's proposal. I wanted to make sure you were willing first. But if this is causing you trouble. He let out a soft sigh. Then consider it never said. He clutched the jade pendant at his waist, pressed his lips together, and said no more. We reached his carriage. He looked into my eyes, Miss Luo, until next time. I watched him climb into the carriage as it rolled away. Walking home, I pondered his words. Nothing said for now, but to be said later? I tucked my face into my scarf, hiding my mouth and nose, and walked home under the bright moonlight. Then we'll talk about it later. Barring any surprises, I'll be acquainted with him for quite some time. I can make the most of my days in Youzhou, and when I return to the capital in the future, there will be a whole new world to explore. There's plenty of time ahead. The end.